Hello and welcome. This is the Scale of Justice. On this edition, we shall be taking a look at the proposed alteration of the Constitution as it affects the judiciary. In the course of the program, the role of the media in the coverage of the judiciary will also be examined. You will equally be informed about 12 inmates in Niger State who regained their freedom. Dele Atumbi is my name, standing in for your regular host, Femi Okewo. The 8th National Assembly is planning 5th alteration of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which came into effect in 1999. The committee has called for memoranda in specific areas of amendment. The Scale of Justice takes a look at the possible areas of reform regarding the judiciary. The judiciary, no doubt, has continued to be the bastion of democracy and the last hope of the common man. For this arm of government to be up to speed in justice delivery, an intermittent review of the law is imminent. A notable reform in the judicial history of Nigeria is the establishment of the National Judicial Council (NJC) in accordance with the provisions of Section 153 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. In the proposed 5th alteration, some legal practitioners are of the opinion that judicial reform must include review of the jurisdiction of courts and financial judicial autonomy.
One of the significant achievements of that Constitution 1999 Constitution was the revolutionary establishment of what is called National Judicial Council, NJC. It was expected that judiciary, as the third arm of government, will be truly autonomous, will be truly independent. But unfortunately, as at today, 20 years after, regrettably, the Nigerian judiciary is still as unindependent, as dependent on the executive and the legislature for its survival. Budgeting system of the Federal Minister of Finance is still what is controlling the budgeting system of the judiciary. They call it the envelope system. So there is something like a limitation that you can go. It's not the business of the Minister of Finance to limit the planning of judiciary or the growth of judiciary. It is for the National Assembly, who is charged with the responsibility of approval of budgets of the president, of the executive and the legislature and judiciary. And that takes me to the jurisdiction of Supreme Court. My view is that Supreme Courts are the last court in the land. Should not be taking all these frivolous petitions. Oh, this is governor today, it's not governor tomorrow. Land matters that are of old archival relevance. Appeal to Supreme Court should be with leave of the Supreme Court, as it is done in UK and America. Why are we still in Supreme Court? They still decide on the issue of landlord or paternity, assets, let's talk of. These are things that should die in the High Court or the Court of Appeal.
Election tribunals. I think it is better, at least, apart from judicial officers, let them amend it in such a way that at least there must be practicing lawyers who have integrity and who have the knowledge of law, particularly procedure. It will definitely enhance their judgments. Procedure. Law is only evidence and procedure. And so, whatever it is, when you bring in the experience of those who are in practice, it will enhance the quality of the judgments of the election tribunals. all serious constitutional matters, particularly election petitions, must end up at the Supreme Court. You see, and somebody will say, but then the Supreme Court is congested already. It's congested already because we allow cases that are not important to go to the Supreme Court, like land cases in my village, customary cases in my village. Well, what is the business of the Supreme Court with it? Those ones can and must stop at the Court of Appeal. But all serious constitutional matters must, to satisfy the yearning of all Nigerians, must terminate only at the Supreme Court.
The Federal High Court is overloaded with jurisdiction. It's not possible for the Federal High Court, no matter how many judges they appoint, no matter how hard they work, it's not possible for the Federal High Court to deal effectively with the deluge of cases that that court has to deal with. We've taken practically everything that's active and given to that court. Admiralty, banking, aviation, oil and gas, you name it, it's there. Now, remember that this was supposed to be a special court to deal with things pertaining to the federal revenue. And suddenly it has metastasized like a cancer into this hydra, which is spread everywhere. If you go to Lagos and count the number of state high courts, there are more than federal high courts, but if you don't look closely, you won't believe it. The federal high court is so large now, it's unnecessary. I think that some of that jurisdiction should be shared with the state high court as it was under the 1979 Constitution, where it was the state high courts that had unlimited jurisdiction. The federal high court had limited jurisdiction. Today, it's virtually the other way around.
If you look at the jurisdictions of courts, Nigerian judiciary has the heaviest jurisdiction as conferred on them by the National Assembly in the amendment, in the alteration of the Constitution and electoral acts and all the rest of them.
We have a major problem of jurisdiction as to adjudication. I'll say it and I will continue to say it. The Nigerian Supreme Court is the only court that sits from Monday to Friday, except on public holidays and during vacation. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. This is as a result of the kind of court system we operate. Nigeria, by the Constitution, is said to be a federation, a federal system of government. But when you come to the judiciary, we're operating a hybrid unitary system of judicial system.
The judiciary is the weakest link in the three arms of government. The executive controls the purse, the legislature approves the disbursement of the money, and it is whatever they send to the judiciary that they are made that they are forced to make do with, you know. And it has been like that over the years. When a man cannot meet his basic needs, and if he doesn't have a strong character, the tendency is that he will have no choice but to fall to the bait. And that is why I must commend the president for the recent executive order he issued, that what is due to the judiciary should be paid directly to the judiciary from the national purse, instead of sending it to the state government.
Advocacy for judicial reform and welfare of the judicial officers and the establishment of special courts to aid specialization of legal practitioners and quick dispensation of justice.
Why is it that as of today our judges and justices are still writing in hands? Why is it difficult to operate our courts virtually? Why is it difficult? Because the infrastructures are not there. Why is it difficult for them to maintain their health? Because the funds are not there. Why is it difficult to undergo specialized training by our judges and justices? Because the funds are not there.
there is absolute need to improve the welfare of judges. Please, no judge, first of all, should have less than at least 3 security people guarding him or her. And then their salaries are totally insufficient. I say totally insufficient. We must improve this. When Buhari came, he started increasing the budgetary allocation. We thank God for that. Let him not stop. You see, no judge, even a high court judge, should not earn anything less than minimum of 2 million a month. These people are alienated from the society. They can't associate with you and I freely as I would do. They don't have any other source of income. And to reach that level, and particularly the African nature, everybody looks upon him now as the breadwinner. In Africa, you can't escape that. Whether you like it or not, you cannot escape it.
While for the federal courts, the Supreme Court, the Court of Federal High Court and National Industrial Court, and perhaps the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, they are well funded. Everything due to those courts as passed by the National Assembly goes to those courts, and they are carrying out their normal business as it is expected. But the same is not with the state. You have problem, the same is not with the state. You have problem with the state in which the state governors, with all sense of responsibility, don't give the judiciary their due, despite the subsistence of the provision of Section 121 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic, which talks of financial autonomy of the judiciary.
I want us to look at the welfare of our judicial officers. A man who knows when he will retire, the day he appends his signature to the oath of office as a judicial officer, will leave that office after working so tirelessly. Because I must tell you, the work of a judicial officer at every level is a very, very tasking assignment. I know some judges in this country that have up to 600, 800 cases on their docket. Rulings, judgments, all manner of applications, all on the same man. And he's retiring in 3 years' time. He's been doing that job for 20 years. He does not have a house that he will retire to. And why? There is no provision for that. There's no provision for him. The salary of our judicial officers is the poorest in Africa.
From their submissions, judicial reform will aid the country's constitutional democracy.
I believe that time has come when the whole world should know who and what qualifies somebody to be a judge of High Court, Justice of Court of Appeal, and Justice of Supreme Court. In the same system, you go through as a promotion from High Court to Court of Appeal, from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. Time is now ripe for us to change it.
Legal practitioners appealed to the National Assembly to be steadfast in the fifth alteration of the Constitution. The symbiotic relationship between the media and the judiciary has in no small measure enhanced the reportage of the justice system delivery in the country. The mutual understanding between them is a springboard for the sustenance of good governance. Over to Aliyu Tukur for more.
The conference brings together people of like minds with common interests to see how they can make positive changes in the society. The 2021 Annual Conference of the National Association of Judiciary Correspondents, the first to be put together by the current leadership of the body. This year's conference, with the theme, The Role of Judiciary in Achieving Good Democratic Governance, along with some sub-themes carefully selected to equip journalists on how to report court proceedings and what they can do in helping the third arm of government overcome their challenges. To achieve this, both parties need to understand the symbolic relationship between the freedom of the press, independence of the judiciary, and democracy. With the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, who declared the workshop open, in a message says journalists must avoid sensational reportage as the citizens expect a lot from them, being the eyes of the society.
On this point, the federal government has taken and maintained the lead in ensuring total autonomy for the judiciary at the national level. The federal government has signed into law the Executive Order 10 on autonomy and independence of state legislature and judiciary. It is a constitutional provision that must be adhered to. On the issue of administration of Criminal Justice Act, which is one of the topics of this conference, the government has greatly used the new law to fight economic and financial crimes in the country.
Permit me to delve briefly into the danger and the worrisome signals emanating in the judiciary sector. This has to do with the continued reduction in the budgetary allocation to this all-important arm of government. More than any other arm of government, the judiciary is burdened. The workload is much, so that their lordship now have to work both day and night in order to cope with the challenges of adjudicating on political issues, especially those that are time-bound.
To expand the horizon of the judiciary correspondence, papers on the role of judiciary in achieving good democratic governance and the independence of the judiciary and challenges of financial autonomy, the way forward, are among papers presented. These papers focus on lack of funding of the third arm of government, which causes unnecessary delays in court proceedings due to lack of enough judges.
It is important to state here that the Constitution is very apt in Section 81 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. I quote, "Any amount standing to the credit of the judiciary in the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation shall be paid directly to the National Judicial Council for disbursement to the heads of the courts established for the Federation and the states under Section 6 of the Constitution."
In line with the globally accepted Montesquieu principles of separation of power, judiciary is an arm of government that is vital to the survival of any nation built on justice, fairness, human rights. It is the guardian of the Constitution, which is a fountain upon which the government exercises power on behalf of the people. It is the arm of government that checks and balances the actions and inactions of the elected representatives of Nigerians, that heads other arms of government via its appointed officials. The judiciary guarantees the rights of citizens and checkmates the limits of the exercise of power by the officials of the state when called upon to do so by the citizens, arms, and tiers of government. Judiciary is not like Father Christmas. It is an arm of government, but it doesn't come directly to perform its function. No, it has to be approached. Father Christmas can come and be dispensing gifts to everybody, but in the instance of the judiciary, you have to come before it and make your plea before it can act to give you the remedy you want.
Participants at the conference are of the opinion that there is no better time to organize such conference, especially when the country will soon go into campaign.
Most times we get to do stories about the judiciary, and sometimes you are not entirely in touch with what the issues are. These are some of the challenges we have on the job as journalists covering the judiciary. So with this sort of workshop, some of those niggling issues have been addressed, particularly listening to veterans, those who have been on the beat for quite some time, and then also practitioners as well. They have been able to also further beam more light on these issues and also lend their expertise on how we can go about addressing them as journalists. Because if we're able to do that, it will help us, approach our jobs better as professionals, and by so doing, the people, of course, we are telling these stories to will understand us better and have a better knowledge of what, of how the judiciary works.
I've gained quite a lot, the role of judiciary in good governance and the role of the press. So I've learned not to always get my story balanced. I've also learned not to be transparent in good reportage, and our story should be balanced.
I've got to know that there's a lot that the Nigerian judicial system has to put in place for it to function optimally. So as a journalist, my duty is to bring the judicial, these areas under the spotlight, to ensure that what needs to be done is done promptly as it should, in the interest of the country and the interest of the citizens. Because a judicial system that is non-functional, or a judicial system that doesn't deliver to its capacity, will ultimately work against the people. Of course, we as journalists, as watchdogs of the society, it's incumbent on us to make sure we make the judicial system function as it should, in the interest of the people.
Highlights of the event includes the launching of the association's almanac.
12 inmates of 2 correctional centers in Niger State have regained their freedom, courtesy of a foundation which footed their bills.
The payment of fines initiative provided freedom to the 12 inmates from the Agaye and Lapai custodial centers. Brigadier General Bello Abdullahi Mohammed Agaye says the foundation provides skills, teaching and learning opportunities through scholarship to the needy. The foundation, he adds, facilitated the payment of fines of 18 to 100,000 naira to enable inmates who are proven to be of good conduct while undergoing rehabilitation regain freedom and, by extension, decongest the custodial center.
Better they leave this environment where they have been caged for too long, and I think that will be better for them.
In a message, the Controller General, Nigerian Correctional Service, represented by the Niger State Controller of the Service, Salman Abdul Kadir, commended the initiative, advocating that non-governmental organizations and well-to-do individuals emulate the gesture through collaboration with the Correctional Service. The Controller General, however, warned the freed inmates not to go back to crime.
I'm very, very happy because this has always been what the Controller General of Nigeria Correctional Service has always been emphasizing, that we should reach out to people who are ready to help in decongesting, rehabilitation, and rehabilitation of inmates.
Other stakeholders appreciated the initiative, noting that it will go a long way in rehabilitating and keeping young people away from crimes. Speaking on behalf of the freed inmates, Mustafa Ibrahim appreciated the foundation for facilitating their freedom. The 12 inmates were offered cash grants to enable them start a new life.
That's a package for this week. Thanks for being part of the program. I am Dili Atumi.
This is the network service of the NTA.